Racing games have always been one of the bigger genres of games outside of the mainstream action, adventure, RPGs, and shooters. There are generations of great racing games, from the Atari all the way to where we are now. Ridge Racer, Burnout Paradise, Need for Speed, anything that involves racing in any GTA game, Forza, Gran Turismo, and I'm talking about the movie, Crash Team Racing, and dare I say the racing game that Danica Patrick is in. There have been a lot of experiments and different takes on racing games throughout every home console and handheld. Although in recent times, racing games feel more like a rarity and not as good as they once were. Maybe it's because Lego racing games were always terrible. You got your standard cars and trucks versus everybody, every Pixar Cars game except for the one on the Wii, that one is really fun. And the more unique racing games we don't really see anymore because creativity in this world is just impossible to profit off of. What a concept. Wave Race, 1080 snowboarding, any team racer, and then there's Rocket League, a generational talent at full display. While technically not a racing game, it shares elements of your average racer, but with the addition of putting you in an epic sports setting, making for one of the most unique sports games in recent memory. But there's a franchise of racing games that I believe to be some of the most influential games that represented that genre, and I can only imagine what the racing game scene would look like without it. No, I'm not talking about Excite Truck or Blur. I'm not an insane person. Alright, so according to some anonymous doctors and a random police officer, apparently I'm an insane person for just mentioning Blur. Last time I checked, it's not illegal, but very concerning to the public eye, so now I'm locked up in this padded room at a mental hospital for the time being, and I don't know when I'm gonna be allowed to leave. I would try to break out, but that didn't work so well for me last time, so I'll just pass the time by and talk about one of the greatest spin-off franchises ever. I know that doesn't say much because it's not the main franchise, but it's still monumental for what it's been able to accomplish the past 32 years. Mario Kart, the franchise that thought it was a good idea to have Donkey Kong Jr. over his actual father. Allegedly. I mean, he did get his own game, so I guess it was worth giving him a chance. We haven't seen Donkey Kong Jr. since the e-reader. Mario Kart made its grand debut in 1992 on the SNES with Super Mario Kart, and this is the first piece of the puzzle, and these first three games are just getting their feet wet and going through the steps, trying to figure things out with this identity. Mario Kart 64 and Super Circuit seem like prequel and sequel games. More so, Super Circuit feels like 64 but on the Game Boy Advance with completely different tracks and also being able to play every Super Mario Kart track. The first three Mario Kart games are like the corner pieces of the puzzle. Easy to understand and satisfying to get on your first go. But after Super Circuit is where questions start to bloom. What could Nintendo possibly do to give Mario Kart a bigger push in the right direction? That's not me saying that these games are bad or were put in a bad light. Super Mario Kart was a great starting point. Mario Kart 64 is loved by many but is carried by its battle mode and feels empty most of the time. While Super Circuit isn't terrible but most likely the weakest out of every other game. Well, excuse me Nintendo, just go on to make a top 3 Mario Kart game of all time. Mario Kart Double Dash is without a doubt the most unique Mario Kart game. Being able to choose 2 characters at once with double the items, which means double the chaos. Specific duos get special items, and then there's King Boo and Petey Piranha who basically get whatever they want like a spoiled rich girl, and home to an absolutely amazing battle course known as Pipe Plaza. It's right behind Block Void as the second greatest battle course of all time. Although the idea of throwing fireballs at someone on a GameCube is really cool, I just believe it was executed in somewhat of a bland way, but it's a really cool idea to have a battle mode on top of a Game Boy. I said Game Boy, oh my god. But it's a really cool idea to have a battle mode take place on top of a GameCube. Speaking of throwing items at people on a random console, Mario Kart DS. If there was a competitive scene for this game, I don't think it would last long because all you would see is Dry Bones, the tank, and a bunch of snaking. Incredibly boring with the occasional excavator with Rob. Although that doesn't take away the fact that this is still a great Mario Kart entry. Great new tracks, local wireless multiplayer, being forced to play Shy Guy is kind of a sin, I'm not gonna lie. Fucking mission mode. Oh my lord, this was awesome. Nintendo. You know what I'm gonna say. Why hasn't it come back? I can understand why for Mario Kart Wii, even though it's right there. Mission mode being more iconic than Mario 64's battle mode. Yeah, I said it. Maybe I deserve to stay in this mental hospital. Alongside with mission mode being Nintendo's kryptonite, they know what they've been doing all these years. Alongside this being the first game to truly introduce retro tracks. Another really fun battle mode, although this is where the Bluebird made its debut as an item instead of a playable character, and now I'm sad. Luckily that sadness isn't gonna last long because next up is Mario Kart Wii, the introduction of bikes and Funky Kong being overpowered. If you're playing with someone who knows what they're doing and they pick one of these 3 vehicles, chuck your Wii in the river so you don't have to witness a murder. Okay, so let's take a detour off the main story for a second and start up one of the most interesting filler arcs I've ever seen a franchise go through. And to think, just like every other filler arc in every medium, it really didn't matter at all for the future of the main product, even though this filler arc is really fun. The Mario Kart arcade trilogy. We see Bandai and Nintendo working together and experimenting what could have been the next step for Mario Kart, but it didn't seem like it was here to stay long term. Kind of unfortunate because there's a lot of potential here. Mario Kart Arcade GP in 2005, Arcade GP 2 in 2007, and Arcade GP DX in 2013. We got ourselves the most ambitious games in the franchise, and I believe it's safe to say that they were successful in their own right, but not on the same level as the main series of Mario Kart. Completely different and unique gameplay, brand new characters including Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, Blinky, and Mamechi. Sure, why not? I played these games a lot when I was younger at my Dave & Buster's, and it's a ton of fun. I really do wish I could experience these games without the limits of an arcade, and from my very young experience back then, these are some really fun games to play and very refreshing, and I definitely recommend them to anyone who's interested. Unfortunately, as we come back to the main story, we have to take a small step back with Mario Kart 7 on the 3DS. Gone are the unique subtitles to match the game's concept or console it's on, but we have sunk as low as just numbers. Although they technically aren't wrong with this being the 7th game in the franchise, but you have to remember the arcade trilogy. That's why I stated those games as filler, because Mario Kart 7 wouldn't be Mario Kart 7 if the Mario Kart arcade trilogy was actually a part of the main series. This is what you get when a Mario nerd uses his brain too much. But we do have a very fun experiment, being able to customize our kart, wheels, and the brand new glider, alongside being able to finally drive underwater without Lakitu assuming you're going to drown, even though you are going to drown because there's nothing there. Just a refresher for people who are lost, we're playing Mario, not Sonic, and this is coming from a Sonic fan. These two new elements expand the track designs, although the entire game leaves much to be desired, with zero versus race and no other unique game modes to make it stand out amongst the others. We could have gotten back mission mode with brand new missions based on gliding and underwater driving, but I guess those ideas are in jail with every other useless Nintendo product. Also, we got Wiggler and Queen Bee as characters. I wouldn't be surprised if players were getting ready for the apocalypse during 2011 after seeing these two in the same Mario Kart game together. The real question is pretty obvious after Mario Kart 7. Have you ever wanted to drive in a shoe? 2013. The Wii U hasn't even been out for half a year and it was already overstaying its welcome. But during Nintendo's E3 presentation, we would get an official announcement of the newest installment of Mario Kart on the Wii U. What a way to continue the legacy. One of the biggest gimmicks we would see from this brand new trailer comes from the Mobius strip on the brand new logo known as the number 8. Technically a lie, but also technically the truth. I talked about it earlier. Honestly, Nintendo headquarters from 2012 to 2016 must have been a very dirty place to be. And I'm not talking about the good kind of dirty, I'm talking about the Wii U kind of dirty. Just makes you ask why, just for the sake of asking why. This time around, we got a brand new way of racing through tracks, and everyone's screwing me over with blue shells and bloopers because Nintendo swears that adding blooper as an item instead of a character was a good idea. I'm not convinced. We also get the great gimmicks of gliding and underwater making their return, so there's an endless cave of creative possibilities for brand new original tracks, but we'll just have to see how that goes. The unfortunate part from this initial announcement is that we would have to wait an entire year and some change until the game came out, but as time went by, we would continue to get news on characters, retro tracks, and other aspects as the hype train starts going faster and faster. Then eventually the ride had to end as it crashed into a wall with no survivors. Mario Kart 8 was released first in Japan on May 29, 2014, a day later in North America and Europe, and another day later in Australia. It must have been a very tough 2 days for Australian gamers waiting for this moment while everyone else was having the time of their lives. With this being a big step up from Mario Kart 7, I'm expecting one person to try and be different in their review and somehow try to convince others that this game just can't be as good as Mario Kart Super Circuit. But I believe the general consensus is that this is a pretty damn good Mario Kart game. Metacritic comes swinging with a solid 88 out of 100, or in my language, an 8.8 out of 10. Eurogamer rightfully called it the most vibrant home console racing game in years, because this definitely doesn't count. Also, some reviewers mentioned rubber banding, which is synonymous to Mario Kart, but Game Informer came in with the very rare clutch gene and stated that fans of the series have basically accepted that part of Mario Kart ever since its most infamous appearance in Mario Kart 64. Shout out to Game Informer for putting out the information, but here's the real reason why people think that rubber banding is so synonymous right now in Mario Kart 8. 8 in 2014. Items are everywhere. You're gonna get hit by everything. It doesn't matter. That's why it's quote-unquote rubber banding effect, because you're getting hit by items. You're constantly being slowed down while everyone else is going 50 miles an hour. Basically, there is no rubber banding in this game. Once you have the lead, you're gonna have that lead until you somehow mess it up. Game Informer also comes in with a very hot 9.25 out of 10. Game Revolution made a statement, hitting us with a perfect 5 out of 5. GameSpot 8 out of 10. Game Radar Plus 4 out of 5. IGN, in a rare occurrence of brain usage, with a 9 out of 10. And surprisingly, the same goes for Nintendo Life. I thought they were gonna give this a 15 out of 10. So I believe it's safe to say that Mario Kart is back in the best ways, although there is one big standout flaw that keeps this from being the absolute best game in the franchise, but that time will be a natural occurrence, unlike me being labeled a psycho. Also, I took a precaution to avoid any confusion as to why the gameplay for the original Mario Kart 8 segment is from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I was welcomed with an extremely early or late birthday gift, and I was very upset because I really wanted to go back to the original Mario Kart 8, but I guess it'll be forever lost in time. Rest in peace to the OG. This is Mario Kart 8. Have you ever been surprised in the best ways and you couldn't contain your excitement? Well, when it comes to my general first impressions of Mario Kart 8 when you first boot up the game, it's just amazing. The music is off the charts amazing, and a truly great way to continue the legacy of the Mario Kart soundtrack. For the first time, we get some live and authentic instrumentals, and the title screen gets everything started, as you just want to stay there and just jam out to the amazing music. I believe if there was one missing instrument, it would sound so wrong, but luckily the right decisions were made when it comes to just the main theme of Mario Kart 8. Just off the title screen alone, I'd say we're in for one hell of a Mario Kart experience. So Mario Kart's gameplay on the surface has always been the same. Race against other competitors with the toxic twist, use items to your advantage, and do whatever it takes to win at all costs. This is just headcanon, but Mario Kart is what inspired Mario Party. Both franchises are absolutely brutal in their own right. Once every race starts, it's a free-for-all. Unless you choose to play with a team, you are the only person you can rely on to get a win, and sometimes you have to take risks in order to cross the finish line first, and that comes in a variety of flavors that are risky to pull off. So the general gameplay and controls have always been the same. Accelerate with A, or if you're an insane person, you choose to accelerate with Y. I may have mentioned blur, but I'm not that insane. You'll get the straight jacket for that one. Stomp on the brakes with B, hold X to access your non-existent rearview mirror, and when it comes to items and drifting, you can choose to use the bumpers or the triggers. The left side for items and the right side for drifting. I'm sorry to the fans of Mario Kart DS, but let's be real, snaking is probably never gonna make a return in any future game. Even if we get another Mario Kart arcade game, snaking will stay in the depths of the Nintendo DS. But drifting is the same as it's been in Mario Kart Wii and 7. You basically have to wait until you can use your mini turbo, but you can semi-manipulate it depending on how you drift. The controls are silky smooth, and it's always cool to pull off something very satisfying that you really wouldn't think would work, and it turns out to work, and that becomes a part of your routine for that track. But it doesn't stop there, because we got ourselves a brand new gimmick to the track design, and that's anti-gravity. If Sonic Riders Zero Gravity had 25% of Mario Kart 8 to gameplay, it would be the best Sonic spin-off. Anti-gravity is exactly what you think. You get to go all around the track, go sideways, upside down, and all that good stuff. But it also affects your actual gravity when you're in the air, as you have more aerial movement when you're racing normally. In my opinion, anti-gravity gives the tracks more depth in their design, and the different perspective of seeing the environment flipped around all over the place is a really cool viewpoint. Also, before we move on, I might as well talk about items. It's not Mario Kart without items unless you're boring and choose no items in versus race, but we got the usual suspects and everyone is a victim to everything. Nothing out of the ordinary. Mushrooms make you go fast, bananas are great for defense, every single shell makes me want to stay in this mental hospital, and then there's everything else that I hate. The blooper and lightning can burn in hell, the fire flower is underrated but I feel doesn't pop up as much as it should, and we have 4 brand new items. The boomerang flower does exactly what it's done in past mainline games, although it is very inconsistent as you waste time having to aim at your opponent if they're in front of you. The piranha plant is an absolute menace when you're in the middle of the pack, as you just spam it to get a nice speed boost as if you have 3 mushrooms, and it bites everything in its way, including other racers. And after playing Mario Kart 8 for 10 years, the piranha plant can destroy the blooper, which is amazing, but it's too bad that you can't get in the top 3. Mario Kart 7 introduced a new type of item known as the Lucky 7, where you get 7 items that circle around you and you can use them whenever you feel is necessary, or do what everyone else does and just spam the hell out of it in less than 2 seconds. Mario Kart 8 brings in the Crazy 8, which is the exact same as the Lucky 7, just with one additional item being the coin. And we finally have another way of dodging blue shells, and that's the Super Horn. No more do you have to gamble and hope for a rare mushroom in first place. The Super Horn destroys the blue shell in one hit. You're never guaranteed to get a Super Horn when rolling for an item. And even if you do get this item, you have to wait until someone throws a blue shell and hope you don't get shocked by by lightning. In the original game, all you had was this item since there's only one item slot, so you couldn't get access to other items. There's also lots of strategy that goes into whether or not you should use the super horn. For example, you're in first place and you have the super horn, but a red shell is coming your way. You have protection on you, but the question is, do you risk losing your super horn to keep up your momentum, but become vulnerable to future blue shells? Or do you take the red shell to keep your protection from blue shells? You see, these are the real questions we all must ask as Mario Kart players, even though everyone has been through these types of situations and came out a winner or with a broken controller. They also brought back the coin from Super Mario Kart, and I'm not a fan of it. But in actuality, it balances out the general item gameplay, because you can just hold the green shell behind you throughout the entire race and you're guaranteed to get another item that can protect you, and lightning is only so rare. The twist with coins is that they aren't completely useless because they're added to your coin counter for your overall top speed, but you'll always be vulnerable to every item in the game with a coin, and you usually get these in the top 3 spots, or if Nintendo is feeling extra sadistic, maybe 4 through 6. This might come as a shocker, but the blue shell still sucks if you didn't guess that already. So Mario Kart 8 on paper plays like every other Mario Kart game, but it has its own unique twist, alongside its new items. More so, the super horn and coin possibly makes this the most strategic Mario game since Double Dash or Wii. But who's really thinking like that other than the one in the mental hospital? Okay, so Mario Kart 8 has a nice cast of characters, although kinda controversial, but that's mainly for the base game of Mario Kart 8 because it does get better from here. Although we do have to work our way up to unlock everyone, and in the base game before DLC, there's a total of 30 characters. You start off with 16 and keep playing the game to unlock the other 14, being Rosalina, Toadette, Metal Mario, Lakitu, all 7 Koopalings, Pinko, Peach, and surprisingly, you don't get Miis from the get-go, so you have to unlock them as well. Alright, time to get fucky as usual because we're gonna go pretty deep into these characters. So we got different weight classes in this game, similar to Mario Kart Wii and 7. This affects a character's stats based on their specific weight class. Each class thrives in certain categories when it comes to general gameplay and customization. Also, apparently there's a quote-unquote best character and card combo, just like Mario Kart DS and Wii. I'm cool with it in those games because they didn't have the customization like Mario Kart 7 or Mario Kart 8. You pick whatever character and vehicle you want to use and boom, you don't have to do anything else. But here it's kind of annoying because you can create whatever you want, but instead of being a sweaty nerd, I decided to be a normal clean nerd who showers and plays whoever I want and whatever card combo I want, although I do have a go-to character card combo that's my personal best performing combination. I'll go over that later, but let's talk about these characters and how they separate themselves from other classes, starting off with the lightweights. These characters aren't the fastest when it comes to general top speed, and they're basically ragdolls to everyone else bigger than them, so don't be surprised if we get bumped off the track 15 times in one lap. These characters specialize in extremely good acceleration, so they'll get back into the race like nothing happened after getting hit with an item or driving off the track, whatever it is. And they also have great handling, so it's easier to control where you want to go, and drifting is really smooth to pull off. Along with being extremely light, they move with ease in mid-air during anti-gravity. Toad, Koopa Troopa, Shy Guy, Lakitu, Toadette, 5 babies, Lemmy, Wendy, and Larry. Next up are the middleweight classes. Average in nearly everything, and you can basically turn them into whatever you want them to be without being exceptional in a specific area. Mario, Luigi, Peach, Daisy, Yoshi, Ludwig, and Iggy. A very small group to start, but it'll soon expand into a bigger squad. Finally, we got the heavyweights. We're talking speed and weight like Bob Richards, but weak in acceleration, handling, and general traction when drifting. They're pretty tough to contend with and against, especially if they're on your ass. Rosalina, Metal Mario, Pinko, Peach, Wario, Waluigi, Donkey Kong, Bowser, Roy, and Morton. Run over the babies with no repercussions. You are the blue shell when you play with Morton. Also, whenever you unlock the Miis, their stats and weight class will vary based on how you made them in the Mii Maker. And I think that's a really cool attention to detail that they brought back from Mario Kart Wii. Although I noticed something very interesting. Characters in the same weight class can be heavier or lighter than others. For example, Toad and Baby Mario are obviously lightweight, but based on stats, Toad is a little bit heavier. The same goes for most of the heavyweights. So it's cool that there's a bit of semi-realism when it comes to these characters, as not everyone is the exact same weight. There's variety in every character's stats, although I want to give special attention to a few characters. Pinko Peach. What the hell was going on here? The most unnecessary character to ever grace our consoles, but I'd rather still play her than Waluigi. I might as well get my stuff moved into this mental hospital and get comfortable, but I'd rather that than play that motherfucker. I'll give baby Rosalina a very light pass. She doesn't directly appear in Mario Galaxy during Rosalina's backstory, but I believe it's important enough to think that Rosalina was definitely a baby at some point in her life. I have an unpopular opinion for you. I don't mind the Koopalings being here. I can understand why people aren't the biggest fan of them being here over other characters, but I've always liked them anyway, so I don't mind. Also, it's nice to see Toadette and Lakitu get some representation, although this leaves the question of who is the real Lakitu. It's one of two theories or neither. Either the Lakitu we play as is the real one who just wants to race with everyone else and we have a filler Lakitu, or this is a completely different one and the real one is the one who starts the race and saves us from impending doom. Either way, it's nice to see him here. Are there problems here? Yes, there are a lot of missing characters that should have made their Mario Kart debut or returned from past games, and it does seem like they threw a dart at Baby Mario and then decided to add in all of them, including an original. Also, no Bowser Jr., but all 7 Koopalings is insane in every way possible, and I don't think it is possible to explain why he's not here, but the roster isn't all that bad. It could be a lot worse. We can have a Mario Party Advanced roster, so let's be happy with what we have. So after you pick your character, vehicle customization is your next step. We can choose any body, wheels, and gliders of our choice, and everything changes every step, so whatever you want to do as a racer, you go ahead and do it, even if it tends to make people uncomfortable because of how it looks. I believe visuals are important when it comes to character customization, but if you want specific stats for a certain character, sometimes you have to risk your drip levels going down at the cost of getting first place. I personally rock the Gold Kart, Azure Roller Wheels, and the Cloud Glider, because for me it works with every weight class, and the stats are very balanced, especially with middleweights, but I'm not above experimenting with other combinations or even going with the most random combination possible. If this doesn't move you, I don't know what will. Although this was earned through hard work and just playing the game, because the coins you earn in every race slowly adds up, and whenever you get a certain amount of coins, you will unlock a random part for customization. Ladies say they want bad boys, well I use inside drifting bikes in Mario Kart 8, so I'm bad to the motherfucking bone. We also have a new vehicle type, and it's pretty much a hybrid of carts and bikes, being ATVs. I'll tell you this right now, mudding was definitely not on the schedule, and Wiggler turning into an ATV was most likely an inside joke between the developers. Man, it really seems like players were pretty indifferent to Wiggler being one of the newest characters in Mario Kart 7. You know what would be funny? What if instead of Wiggler coming back as a playable character, we turn Wiggler into an ATV? Go to the boss and demand a raise alongside his job. That is genius. I hope you run into financial trouble. You can't go wrong with any of these options, and if you choose any bike with Yoshi, you're obligated to choose the Yoshi bike, or else you'll be forced to join me, and I don't think you would want that. But bringing back car customization is a big plus for me. Although I don't think it would have hurt to give us some more ATV designs or gliders, but I'm not mad. So with new gameplay comes new and returning tracks to race on. When the base game came out, we got ourselves 8 cups and 32 tracks, with half being brand new and the other half being retro tracks. You had the mushroom, flower, shell, and banana cup to start, and you had to unlock the others as you played through the Grand Prix. You also had to unlock every cup for every CC available. So we'll talk about every track in order, starting with the mushroom cup. Mario Kart Stadium, most likely the greatest first track in Mario Kart history, with a beautiful competitive evening atmosphere and our official intro to Zero Gravity, although it is very brief, but it's a nice introduction to the 11th Mario Kart. Racing through a water park is probably every kid's dream if you're born before 2007, and also the Wario Ferris wheel is something I never thought I would see in my life. Sweet Sweet Canyon is a nice expectation subversion, because this could have been another Grumble Volcano type of track, but I like the sweet twist, and swimming through honey is actually a really cool idea that was never brought back for some reason. I feel like Thwomp Ruins should be its own world in a future Mario game. It's pretty standard, but not too overwhelming. The Flower Cup gives us Mario Circuit if the Mobius Strip was a Mario Kart track. Toad Harbor, a nice humble city area next to the ocean if Florida or California were peaceful. Twisted Mansion has a water pipe and ghost problem, but I guess Luigi is too busy having the time of his life, and Shy Guy Falls has great music and a cool Zero Gravity section. The Star Cup is where the quality noticeably gets higher, starting with Sunshine Airport, one of the best concepts for a Mario Kart track, by racing through every part of the airport and sometimes bumping your head on the bottom of a plane taking off. Dolphin Shoals has one of the most iconic songs in the game. Electro Drum has clickbaited everyone to call it Electro Dome for at least 10 years. That's how you know it's a great track, but Dome sounds better because I'm assuming we're racing through a dome during a massive rave. And Mount Wario is a literal race through a whole Winter Olympic event, and it's an awesome track. The Special Cup, being the temporary end to the new tracks, is half and half, starting with Cloudtop Cruise and big time fan favorite for me, Bone Dry Dunes. Bone dry is the perfect description for this track, and I hate it. Bowser's Castle is one of the best in the entire franchise and probably the greatest Bowser's Castle song out of every other, and then we finish off on a disappointing note with Mario Kart 8's Rainbow Road. I like the idea of a space station, but other than that, it's a pretty boring Rainbow Road, which is something even Super Circuit can't say. So a nice majority of these original tracks are a lot of fun and have extremely unique environments, but there are a few I'm not the biggest fan of. But let's move on to the second half, those being the retro tracks. It's so refreshing to me, and not only do we get better gameplay and designs, but the general visuals and graphics of every retro track is stunning. Moo Moo Meadows and Yoshi Valley with the dusk sunset feeling in the distance is beautiful. I really enjoyed the newer night aesthetics of Sherbert Land, Music Park, Royal Raceway, and N64 Rainbow Road are just straight up gorgeous. These retro tracks stand out on their own based on how amazing they look and the great ways the new gameplay elements were implemented to make them fun to race on. So the tracks in Mario Kart 8, in my opinion, give us some of the best and some of the worst when it comes to the original tracks. There's only 5 retro tracks I generally don't care for when it comes to racing, so the quality is very nice, but I feel like there's still room for improvement, but only time will tell to see if we're gonna get those improvements. But let's nosedive into the deepest pits of hell with what's coming up next. This is one of many reasons as to why I was upset that I couldn't go back to Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U, but I don't understand this decision, even though it's not a terrible idea, but it was executed in the worst ways possible. Mario Kart 8's battle mode has the power to end the world and put us all into purgatory forever. This was either a conscious decision or there wasn't much time until release and they had to do something in order to meet the deadline. Regardless, the idea of current tracks being battle courses is not bad. My problem is that nothing was changed. These tracks were turned into battle courses, but not really. Mario Circuit, Moo Moo Meadows, Toad Harbor, Yoshi Valley, Toad's Turnpike, Donut Plains 3, Dry Desert, and Sherbert Land were the only options for battle courses, and normal Mario Kart battle mode happens. You want to rack up points and win. If I remember right, you only play Balloon Battle and nothing else, cause that's all I remember playing. And I did have some moments when I was super bored and went to Toad Harbor and unironically played this battle mode. The only courses I remember playing were Moo Moo Meadows, Toad Harbor, Mario Circuit, and Yoshi Valley. There were times where I had some great and intense matches with the CPU because no one is realistically playing this online, but they actually were? I think? We don't talk about that era. Also, the fact that we had to deal with this for 3 years with no change just makes me wonder what was going on. Well, speaking of change, for a bit there wasn't much that was brought into Mario Kart 8. Nothing new to play around with, but it's time to start building something new within Mario Kart 8. So starting off, we would get one of the most obscure collaborations we've ever seen from Nintendo, and not only was this unexpected, but in retrospect it was pretty funny. But I also appreciate it more than I should. Nintendo got together with Mercedes-Benz for some reason. I'm not against it, but this was more than unexpected. So on August 27th, we would get the first bits of DLC with 3 new carts and a set of tires: the GLA, the W25 Silver Arrow, and the 300 SL Roadster, alongside some GLA tires. Surprisingly, no Mercedes logo as a glider, but I like how different this is from any other collaboration, and luckily this DLC pack was free, so if you've ever wanted to race real cars with Baby Daisy, play Mario Kart 8, but we would have to wait another 3 months for the next pieces of DLC content. On November 13th, our first fleshed out pack of DLC would be available, the Legend of Zelda pack. First things first, we got brand new characters, Tanuki Mario, Cat Peach, and Link. Because Super Mario 3D World was big on the Wii U, but obviously the biggest aspect was Link. If you don't count the Mario Kart arcade games, the first ever non-Mario character in a Mario Kart game. And I don't care what anyone has to say about Donkey Kong, he's a glorified Mario character with his own franchise, just like Yoshi and Wario. We also got 2 new cups, meaning 8 brand new tracks, 3 retro and 5 brand new original tracks. The Egg Cup brings us Yoshi Circuit from Double Dash, Excitebike Arena, Dragon Driftway, and Mute City from F-Zero. Wow, what a time to be alive. Not only is Yoshi Circuit one of the most unique tracks in all of Mario Kart, but getting a callback to the Excitebike franchise of old and making F-Zero relevant again, although that relevance came at a cost. I'll talk about that in a second. The Triforce Cup gives us the return of Wario's Gold Mine from Mario Kart Wii and Rainbow Road from Super Mario Kart, and the brand new tracks being Ice Ice Outpost and Hyrule Circuit. I wonder if this is based on a specific Zelda game or if this is an original design. Regardless, it's a great track. I love SNES Rainbow Road. Wario's Gold Mine is so much better here than it was in Mario Kart Wii for me, and Ice Ice Outpost is in the corner somewhere. Alongside new characters and new tracks, we also got 6 new customization options. The Tanuki Kart, the Bee Dasher making its return, even though I thought it was going to be in the base game for how iconic it is, but I'm happy it's back. Link gets the Master Cycle, Triforce Tires, and Hylian Kite, and finally the Blue Falcon. My god, Nintendo knew what they were doing. I believe Mute City and the Blue Falcon raised a bunch of questions as to why we got a dedicated track and kart, but no Captain Falcon as a playable character. I believe this is a valid concern to have, but by the time we got this first DLC pack, Nintendo had already confirmed we would be getting a second pack, so there's a possibility we could get Captain Falcon to be a part of the action. But other than that, I believe this is a great start to the DLC, and it would only be a matter of time until Pack 2 comes out, although we would have to wait a little bit longer for it. So moving forward to mid-2015, we would get an April Fool's joke that turned out to actually be real and not a joke, which is something you'll never see on April Fool's Day. Nintendo uploaded a new announcement for Mario Kart 8, and this will be for the more rebellious racers who want to add something extra spicy to the gameplay, and that's 200cc, the fastest we've ever gotten to race in any of the games, and it will soon become free DLC alongside the second DLC pack on April 23rd, 2015. 3 more characters, 8 more tracks, and 5 more ways to customize your loadout. This DLC is centered around Animal Crossing. Seeing how this is 2015, you would think this would have something to do with Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival, but we got really lucky because that game unfortunately was released in November. We got Villager, Isabelle, and Dry Bowser making his return into the fray of racing. The Bell Cup gives us Neo Bowser City from Mario Kart 7, Ribbon Road from Super Circuit, Super Bell Subway, and Big Blue from F-Zero. Even today, this is still hard to process. 2 F-Zero tracks, the Blue Falcon, and no playable Captain Falcon. This was when I decided to believe that Nintendo had a vendetta against Captain Falcon. And don't come at me with this amiibo because every single person knows that doesn't count for shit because not everyone has a Captain Falcon amiibo like me. I'm not flexing, it just happens to be that way. Moving on to the Crossing Cup, Baby Park from Double Dash, Super Circuit's Cheese Land making a surprise return, Wild Woods, and Animal Crossing. Luckily, we didn't get the DS version of Baby Park. 7 Laps and Item Chaos is back. Cheese Land is a completely new track visually. I love the environment and whole vibe of Wild Woods, and Animal Crossing is a lot of fun. Being able to play seasons of this track at random is such a cool idea. And the only difference that affects gameplay is whenever you play on winter, as there's a little bit of ice physics, but it's not as bad as having to drive when you get inked by a blooper. Yes, I'm still bitter. This time around, when it comes to car customization, we got 5 pieces to play around with. The Streetle, which is literally a beetle turned into a vehicle. The P-Wink, which gives me the idea it's basically a Wild Wing in an alternate universe. The City Tripper, Bone Rattler for Dry Bowser, and a Paper Plane, which is cute. Unfortunately, that's all the DLC we got. On paper, it doesn't seem like much, but when you really play the game and play around, there's a good number of extra content here. Also, to everyone being babies about 200cc, what do you expect for an extra cc to Mario Kart? Of course it's gonna be a lot faster. Now, I'll admit, as a 200cc player, does every track work with 200cc? Absolutely not. It's mainly for the F-Zero tracks, but that doesn't make 200cc any less fun for me. I've never went back to any other cc, nor do I plan on it because 200cc is that much fun to play, and I love the new addition to the game as it makes every race more intense in the best ways possible, especially if you pull out a clutch win at blazing speeds. Anyway, I believe the DLC was a big success with the crossovers, characters, tracks, and everything else in between. But here's a problem that should have been addressed even if it had to be through DLC. Battle mode. Nothing changed. We didn't even get replacement courses for the actual tracks. If I had to guess, Mario Kart TV was used more than battle mode was played. Honestly, you couldn't ask for a better release than Mario Kart 8. 1.2 million copies sold in the first 4 days, making it the fastest selling Wii U game at the time. And throughout the first month of the game being released, that number would continue to rise all the way up to 2.82 million copies. Mario Kart 8 became the best selling Wii U game and is currently on the top 10 list of best selling video games of all time. Also, damn near 82% of Wii U consoles sold came with Mario Kart 8 bundled in, making it the #1 option for consumers as you're getting a top tier racing game on a console that just had to exist for some reason. These sales accomplishments would soon lead to a bunch of awards and nominations, such as winning the best family game and best racing/sports game at the 2014 Game Awards, and was also nominated for most addicting game at the 2015 Kids' Choice Awards. I feel like that should have been a sign for something. Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U. What an experience. The new gameplay is great, most of the tracks are top tier. I believe there could have been one more pack of DLC, but it was successful regardless. And the overall numbers are insane for how iconic Mario Kart is as a racing franchise. Being one of the best games on the Wii U is somewhat half of an accomplishment. On one half, it's one of the 5 biggest games on the console, and lots of people bought a Wii U for this game mainly because it's worth the money. The other half is that it's on the Wii U, one of Nintendo's biggest failures being carried by its catalog of first-party games, including Mario Kart 8 all the way until 2017. Speaking of which, The Nintendo Switch 2017 presentation in January was a step into a new era for Nintendo hardware. We would get a good look at the brand new hybrid console, and a lot of games were confirmed for release within the first year. Breath of the Wild, Splatoon 2, Super Mario Odyssey, fucking ARMS. At least they tried with that game, it has a lot of potential. Shout out to all 4 ARMS stands out there. But we would get an announcement for a new but familiar Mario Kart experience on the Switch, as we would get the first look at Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Very interesting tactic, porting the original game from Wii U to the next big console instead of creating a new original, although it's kinda understandable as to why they did this. Even with sales numbers being on another level of high, and even more Wii U's bought because of Mario Kart 8, it could only carry that console so far on its back, and it did just that for 2 years straight. But Nintendo finally let the original game rest once Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was announced. Alongside this new trailer, we see an unfamiliar location as we start off with battle mode, and we see some returning characters being Bowser Jr., King Boo, and Dry Bones. This was a lot to take in, and then we see Urchin Underpass and say hello to the Inklings. To me, their inclusion makes sense because of how well Splatoon sold on the Wii U, being one of the console's highest sold and most popular games. But I wasn't expecting this, even with the past editions of Link and Animal Crossing characters. I see this trailer as a way of self-awareness from Nintendo, with half of this entire trailer being centered around battle mode. I honestly don't know what led to the final decision being made for the original game's battle mode, but it felt like they knew this was their chance to fix that blunder. Obviously, I don't believe they would port a whole game just to fix the worst aspect of the original, but Mario Kart 8 got all of its DLC within a year of initial release and nothing else. It seemed like there was more work to be done, and here we are. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was released on the Nintendo Switch worldwide on April 28th, 2017, to some of the biggest acclaim a Mario Kart game has ever seen, and as of New Year's Eve of 2023, 7 years later, this game is still the highest selling game on the Switch with 60+ million copies sold and counting. I believe it was smart for Nintendo to release this game a month after the Switch's release, because players can only play Skylanders, Imaginators, and Just Dance 2017 for so long without wanting to commit a crime. Also, they probably had a feeling that Switches would fly off the shelves faster than pre-orders if they were to release it early in the Switch's life, and I think it's safe to assume that's exactly what happened. This also includes the players who only bought the Switch and no extra games just to wait the extra month and change for this game. Guys, I promise, Snipper Clips is really cool. So with this being the 4th chapter of our Mario Kart 8 journey, let's see what's next. This is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Semi-new game, same gameplay, but instead of changing everything, we add more to improve since Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is here to stay. So to start off, we got a 3rd mini turbo while drifting for a longer period of time as the orange sparks go purple and you get a much longer and effective speed boost. The general gameplay is the same, but the speed of 200cc was nerfed in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe as it's a bit slower but still noticeably the fastest cc. Speaking of nerfs, there was a really fun secret mechanic in the original game that allowed you to go even faster, and that was fire hopping. You continuously hop and you'll go a lot faster, especially after a mini turbo or boost of any sorts. It doesn't exist anymore in Deluxe, but I can live without it. There was nothing absolutely game changing, but it's clear that improvements were made and the gameplay feels so much smoother and it's a lot more enjoyable for me, even though it was just as fun on the Wii U. We even got 2 new items to screw us over in the Boo, which takes away items from a random player, and a battle mode exclusive item being the Feather, which hasn't been seen since Super Mario Kart, so that was a big surprise. Staying on topic with items, we now have 2 item slots instead of 1, and the strategy is on another level with this game, but things can get pretty predictable and lead to some easy wins. The biggest part of this new element is that if you run into a double item block, you're guaranteed some type of protection, as well as a coin, mainly if you're placing top 3. You'll never get 2 coins at the same time, so you can either keep the coin on you in case you fall off or need that extra speed boost, or guarantee your safety from red shells, even though Lightning, Boo, Blooper, and the blue shell will find a way to ruin your day, which is what this game unapologetically promotes with a smug smile on its face. I'm sorry, I'm not bitter. I already mentioned them, but we got 5 new characters to play with, both Inklings being the next non-Mario characters alongside the return of King Boo, Dry Bones, and Bowser Jr., as well as 3 new customization options, 2 of them being new ATV vehicles being the Ink Striker and Splat Buggy from our favorite Inklings, as well as the iconic Koopa Clown Car for Bowser Jr. and the Koopalings. Speaking of which, Bowser Jr. is one of the most obvious options for any Mario spin-off game. Dry Bones has always been a fan favorite in any game he's played playable in, and King Boo is always welcome to join the fun. Although, whenever you get first place in every cup in 200cc, you'll unlock Gold Mario. It's basically a recolor of Metal Mario, but nothing much is different with the character except you replace New Vegas lead with gold. So because this is a port with some smaller changes, everything is back in one single purchase. Bone Dry Dunes is still terrible, all the DLC is back in action, but it's time to go over the biggest and greatest change this game has to offer. Battle mode is usually one of the biggest topics of Mario Kart games because of what it brings out of us. It's Smash Bros in a Mario Kart setting with item chaos. Mario Kart 8's battle mode on the Wii U was worthy of getting the electric chair and hung at the stake at the same time, but Deluxe was when battle mode was revived from hell. 4 returning game modes from past games and 1 brand new mode. Classic Balloon Battle, Coin Runners, Bob-omb Blast coming back from Double Dash, Shine Thief making an epic comeback as well, and the brand new mode being Renegade Roundup. First up is Shine Thief, my favorite of the 5. You have to collect the shine for yourself because this is all about being selfish, and you have to hold it for a specific amount of time at the cost of not being able to drive as fast. If you get hit by an item or get jumped over by someone with a feather, you lose the shine and have to get it back. Your counter will stop until you reacquire it, and whoever gets their counter to 0 first wins. I've always liked the thrill of being chased by a group, breaking their ankles and dodging items blindly in order to get away for a few seconds, cause every second matters when you have possession of the shine, and even hunting down the current possessor, especially after you lose it, 100% my favorite and go-to battle mode. Next up is the new kid on the block, Renegade Roundup, which is number 2 behind Shine Thief. This mode centers around the Piranha Plant item in a very intense game of cops and robbers. The Renegades win by dodging the law until time is up and at least one of them isn't caught, but if the law catches all the Renegades before time runs out, they win. It's an awesome mode that I'm surprised we haven't seen in past games like Double Dash or Wii, but I really like this inclusion. Balloon Battle is the ultimate battle mode because it's the best representation of what battle mode is in Mario Kart. Nothing changes here from past entries. Pop as many balloons as possible, except instead of getting completely eliminated after you get all your balloons popped, you come back with 3 balloons and keep going as if nothing happened. I believe that's something players aren't a fan of because you could play terrible and still manage to win somehow. But that's the greatness of battle mode. Regardless of skill, anything can happen at any time. Also RNG because this is Mario Kart and yes, it has a gun. I can't do anything about it, I'm sorry. Bob-omb Blast is up next, and if you're a fan of Michael Bay movies and you haven't played Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, this battle mode is right up your alley. Grab Bob-ombs and throw them at everyone in your way. Also, for however long you hold the item button depends on how far you throw your bomb. Basically, the longer you hold, the farther you throw. So there's some timing you have to work with, and it all depends on where your opponents are and when they get in your vision. Get your adrenaline up with explosions all over you, and yes, that sounds really bad. So moving on to Coin Run. Collect as many coins as possible around the map and don't get hit by items since that causes you to lose them. Without a doubt the most tame battle mode, but it can still be very intense. So battle mode is back and amazing as ever. I'm happy that Nintendo came to their senses and worked on making the battle mode actually playable. Here's a quick ranking of the battle course tracks based on design and how fun they are to play. All of them are fun in their own right, but I enjoy some more than others. Battle Course 1, Luigi's Mansion, Battle Stadium, Sweet Sweet Kingdom, Urchin Underpass, Dragon Palace, Woohoo Town, Lunar Colony. I do like how the newer tracks outside of Urchin Underpass are inspired and designed after some tracks in the game. Battle Stadium, Mario Kart Stadium, Sweet Sweet Kingdom, Sweet Sweet Canyon, Dragon Palace, Dragon Driftway, and Lunar Colony representing Rainbow Road without Skittles. Battle mode in Deluxe is awesome, but there's a clear problem that I'll address later, and it's pretty obvious the more you think about it, but let's move on. One of the many surprising traits of this game is how long it was able to last with an extreme lack of content additions. For 6 years, there was only 3 pieces of extra content, but it's mainly 2. Starting with compatibility for Nintendo Labo, one of Nintendo's most interesting experiments which led to a possible cardboard epidemic for about 2 weeks. Next was a Breath of the Wild update, giving Link his design from one of the Switch's most accomplished titles, as well as an updated Master Cycle known as the Master Cycle Zero. You can choose between Classic Link or Breath of the Wild depending on your preference, which is really cool. Then the Vehicle Labo kit was soon made compatible for this game. I do appreciate what Labo's ambitions were, and I suppose it's better than getting nothing, but this lack of additional content or updates was kinda shocking, and I believe it led to some speculation as to what Nintendo was going to do with this game as the Switch gets older and older. But then we would get a very interesting yet out of nowhere announcement that I believe brought Mario Kart 8 back to some sort of relevance as the Switch's best-selling game. During a Nintendo Direct on February 9th, 2022, they would reveal the Booster Course Pass. This will come with 48 more tracks ranging from new originals, new retro tracks, and even tracks from the oh-so-infamous Mario Kart Tour on mobile. A waste of a great concept ruined by microtransactions like every other could have spin great mobile game. Anyway, moving on before I get pissed off. Throughout early 2022 and late 2023, we would get 6 waves of this DLC, each wave giving us 2 cups, so 8 tracks in total, with some extra characters coming back or making their Mario Kart debut. So let's start off with Wave 1. This wave was released on March 18th, 2022 with the Golden Dash and Lucky Cup, Paris Promenade, Toad Circuit from Mario Kart 7, Choco Mountain from 64, and the legendary Coconut Mall from Wii. Talk about a great start. Coconut Mall has been a huge fan favorite ever since Mario Kart Wii was released, and fans are gonna want to see it come back as a retro track in every future Mario Kart game. The Lucky Cat Cup gives us Tokyo Blur, Shroom Ridge from DS, Sky Garden from Super Circuit, and the first new original track of this DLC, and Ninja Hideaway. I was shocked seeing this new course because I didn't think there would be original tracks with this DLC pass, but that means I wasn't paying attention to the first trailer that clearly showed this track, so I was excited for what future original tracks could look like. So this is a great start to the DLC arc, but then I realized we would have to wait a while for every wave after a new one releases. 5 months later, we would get Wave 2 on August 4th. The Turnip Cup gives us New York Minute, Mario Circuit 3 from Super Mario Kart, Calamari Desert from 64, and Waluigi Pinball from DS. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I'm not above admitting that most of Waluigi themed stages and spin-offs are great. Waluigi Pinball has always been one of the best Mario Kart tracks ever. He still sucks, but his pinball machine is really damn cool. Next up is the Propeller Cup, Sydney Sprint, Super Circuit Snowland, that's such a tongue twister, Mushroom Gorge from Wii, and the next original track being one of my favorites, Sky High Sundae. Snowland got the Cheese Land and Ribbon Road treatment as it feels like a completely new track. I guess that's what happens when you go from this to this. It all makes sense. Mushroom Gorge is another fan favorite out of Mario Kart Wii's catalog, and I really enjoy Sydney Sprint as it's one of my favorite tracks from tour. Wave 3 comes around on December 7th with the Rock and Moon Cups. London Loop GBA's Boo Lake is a ton of fun, Rock Mountain from 7, which is an interesting choice, and Maple Treeway from Wii. Unpopular opinion, I don't like Maple Treeway. I hate it in Wii and tolerate it in Deluxe. That is all. Next up, we got Berlin Byways, Peach Gardens from DS, Merry Mountain being the next original track, and Mario Kart 7's Rainbow Road. A great way to come back from a decent cup. Peach Gardens is an underrated classic from DS, and I absolutely love the new design of Mario Kart 7's Rainbow Road. One of my favorites throughout all the DLC. Wave 3 also gave us one of the most interesting elements of gameplay, and that's being able... Whoa, okay, alright. Wave 3 also gave us one of the most interesting elements of gameplay, and that's being able to customize the items that roll in versus race both offline, online, and in battle mode. So you can turn off that goddamn blue shell and blooper if you want. Now Wave 4 is when things get good. We already have some amazing tracks, but now it's time to take this DLC to the next level. So on March 8th, 2023, we got the Fruit and Boomerang Cup, as well as returning character Birdo, to start off the wave of DLC characters, as she was the only character released for Wave 4. This is an obvious confirmation that we would get some more characters after Birdo, because imagine if she was the only DLC character throughout this entire pass. Let's get back to the track since that's the main character right now. Amsterdam Drift, Riverside Park from Super Circuit, DK Summit from Wii, and Yoshi's Island. Very interesting group of tracks. Riverside Park is a big surprise as I don't remember that track from Super Circuit from my 2 total hours of playing. I believe DK Summit is cool but a bit overrated, and I'm so surprised it took DLC in a distant future Mario game to get a Yoshi's Island themed track. The Boomerang Cup gives us Bangkok Rush, Mario Circuit from DS, Waluigi Stadium from Double Dash, and Singapore Speedway, probably a top 3 tour track in the game. Another interesting group, but it's not bad. I see myself coming back to Singapore Speedway a lot, but I'm not really a fan of Waluigi Stadium because I compare it to Waluigi Pinball. I don't feel as excited, and it makes me wish for Wario Coliseum from Double Dash. But that's just me. It's not a bad track, but I believe it lives in the shadow of younger brother Waluigi Pinball. Let's move on to Wave 5. July 12th, 2023, we got Athens Dash, Daisy Cruiser, and Moonview Highway making a return, as well as a new track, Squeaky Clean Sprint. A really cool idea and lots of fun to play. The Cherry Cup gives us Los Angeles Laps, Sunset Wilds, a top 3 favorite track from Super Circuit, Koopa Cape returning from Wii, and Vancouver Velocity. Sunset Wilds is beautiful. I'm a huge sucker for sunsets, so free cookie points for everyone because brownies are overrated. We got 2 returning characters and 1 new character making their Mario Kart debut, Petey Piranha, Wiggler, and Kamek. I was very surprised seeing Wiggler come back from Mario Kart 7, and luckily Honey Queen didn't come back so we won't have to go through another apocalypse. Kamek is so infamous within Mario Kart because they were supposed to be one of the new characters in Mario Kart 64, but was replaced by Donkey Kong. I'm not gonna lie, couldn't be me. And finally, to end off this long DLC arc, we would get the final DLC wave on November 9th, 2023. This will become the biggest DLC wave of the whole booster course Pass. Wave 6 brings Romavanti, DK Mountain, Daisy Circuit, and Piranha Plant Cove. I appreciate DK Mountain for what a Donkey Kong track can be. Romavanti is a great tour track. Piranha Plant Cove is very unique that gives me some vibes of Piranha Plant Slide, and I've always enjoyed Daisy Circuit. The final cut brings in Madrid Drive, Rosalina's Ice World, Bowser Castle 3, and Mario Kart Wii's Rainbow Road. Madrid Drive is another great downtown city themed track. I don't like Rosalina's Ice World in either 7 or Deluxe, so that was disappointing for me, but luckily the other 3 tracks exist. I absolutely adore Bowser Castle 3 and Mario Kart Wii's Rainbow Road. Next up, we got the last 4 characters with 2 veterans and 2 newcomers, Diddy Kong and Funky Kong, who isn't broken anymore, as well as Pauline and Peachette, which was a big surprise to me. Here's the thing, New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe is the 10th highest selling Switch game, but I don't think that's the reason why they brought her in. This may sound odd, because of the crown power-up in that game, allowing Toadette to transform into Princess Peach, it clearly led to a huge movement of one of the most prolific OCs we've seen in a very long time in Bowsette. If I had to guess, that inspiration was massive, and the semi-official / unofficial design of Bowsette was everywhere for a very long time in 2019. I'm not saying Peachette is a bad character, but you have to remember that we now have 5 Peach variants in this game alongside 5 variations of Mario. I honestly don't believe that her inclusion was to promote New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, because that game was 4 years ago at the time of this DLC wave's release, and there was nothing else other than the new content it came with when it was released. But I'm not against her being here, it just messed up my brain for a bit. But there's more than the last 8 tracks in the final characters. We got a music player that allows us to freely listen to our favorite tracks without forcing ourselves to race. We also got 18 new outfits for our Miis, and these are very interesting, in a decent way. They do have special trick animations while in zero gravity, and those animations fit what outfit the Miis are wearing, and I think it's a nice element of charm that no one is gonna pay attention to except for me, because I live for details like this. And with that, the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course DLC Pass has been complete. I believe it to be a big success. Some amazing tracks, awesome characters, and great smaller additions that are more than welcome. But with the highs comes some noticeable lows, and all those lows are the tracks I'm not the biggest fan of, but they're overpowered by the ones I absolutely love, so I believe the ratio is positive. So now that I've talked about every track, it's time to clear some air, even though I didn't go too deep into every track, but the gameplay speaks for itself. I was originally going to do a separate ranking of every single track in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe once the DLC was finished, but I decided against that because I would talk about every track in my review anyway, so what's the point of repeating myself? My ranking is based on design and how much I enjoy racing on these courses and personal preference. I'm just gonna speedrun it, so here we go. Bone Dry Dunes, Mario Kart 8 Rainbow Road, Rosalina's Ice World, Toad Circuit, Grumble Volcano, Shroom Ridge, Mario Circuit 3, Choco Mountain, Mario Circuit DS, Los Angeles Laps, Snowland, Riverside Park, Donut Plains 3, Bangkok Rush, Dry Desert, Neo Bowser City, N64 Rainbow Road, Sherbert Land, Toad's Turnpike, Ice Ice Outpost, Twisted Mansion, Cheap Cheap Beach, DK Jungle, Moo Moo Meadow, Sweet Sweet Canyon, Athens Dash, DK Mountain, Piranha Plant Slide, DK Summit, Rock Mountain, Yoshi Valley, Berlin Byways, Piranha Plant Cove, Ninja Hideaway, Sunset Wilds, Amsterdam Drift, Yoshi Circuit, Moonview Highway, Mario Kart Stadium, Maple Tree Way, Thwomp Ruins, Daisy Circuit, London Loop, Water Park, Calamari Desert, Mushroom Gorge, Hyrule Circuit, Waluigi Stadium, Wario Stadium, Wario's Gold Mine, Tokyo Blur, Royal Raceway, Sky Garden, Yoshi's Island, Dragon Driftway, Realm Avanti, Dolphin Shoals, Daisy Cruiser, Boo Lake, GBA Mario Circuit, Animal Crossing, Ribbon Road, Paris Promenade, Mario Kart 8 Mario Circuit, Peach Gardens, Toad Harbor, Baby Park, Madrid Drive, New York Minute, Koopa Cape, Merry Mountain, Electrodrome, Shy Guy Falls, Sunshine Airport, SNES Rainbow Road, Excitebike Arena, Bowser Castle 3, Vancouver Velocity, Music Park, Sydney Sprint, Cheeseland, Singapore Speedway, Wild Woods, Cloudtop Cruise, Coconut Mall, Waluigi Pinball, Super Bell Subway, Mount Wario, Mute City, Tick-Tock Clock, Bowser's Castle, Mario Kart Wii Rainbow Road, Sky High Sunday, Squeaky Clean Sprint, 3DS Rainbow Road, Big Blue. Jesus Christ. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe expanded the track list to a legacy number with a total of 96 tracks, which just feels unreal to think about. 6 years of minimal updates that don't really mean much to one of the biggest DLC announcements the Switch has seen in recent years. This is something I'm proud of as a fan of Nintendo and Mario Kart, but I do want to talk about a few missing pieces that I believe would have made this DLC even more successful than it already is. I'm very surprised we didn't get any Octoling designs or the Inkling designs from Splatoon 2 or 3. I feel like with the success of of both games on the Switch, it would warrant their additions to the game, but we didn't get that when Link got his Breath of the Wild update. Another big shocker I was expecting was a whole cup dedicated to Splatoon, with at least one location from one of the Splatoon games to race around. I know this is Mario Kart, not Nintendo Kart, but if you're gonna put them in the game, give them a battle course and not a single track is very interesting to me. I'm not saying they should bring in 4 maps from Splatoon, regardless of how cool that would be, but if you look at the Triforce Cup and the Crossing Cup, the final tracks are dedicated towards Link, Villager, and Isabelle. I know the Inklings weren't DLC, but their addition is important because of how successful Splatoon was on the Wii U and the Switch. I was also wondering in the back of my head about battle mode. Why not give us some new battle courses or a new game mode to play around with? There was nothing new done with battle mode ever since Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was released. I'm not saying that's a huge problem, but because of how loved battle mode is in most Mario Kart games, you would think Nintendo would give us something during this DLC period, but we didn't get anything, which is a shame. With this DLC being massive in every way you can possibly think of, it leaves one big question for Nintendo. What's next for Mario Kart after this game? With constant rumors of the next console running rampant, it makes me wonder what the next installment could possibly become, because it seems like everything you could ever want in a Mario Kart game is here. You have to start from scratch and find a way to beat this behemoth of a video game. It's either that or you start remastering past entries like Double Dash, Wii, or even Super Circuit if you're feeling freaky, but it's going to be hard to live up to the standard of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Regardless of what they decide to do with Mario Kart for the next console, it's gonna be hard for that game to live up to the standard that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe set for the franchise, but I believe as long as it's really good and unique, we as fans can get another dub, but we'll have to play the waiting game, and luckily Mario Kart 8 Deluxe can keep us busy for another 10 years. Mario Kart 8, 9 years of zero gravity and the Luigi death stare being one of the biggest memes of 2014. I do believe this to be the best game in the franchise, but I'm not going to take away the importance of the 1992 classic, 64, Double Dash, DS, and Wii. You get damn near everything you want here. 50 characters if you want to count the Inkling and Villager variations, 96 tracks, insanely replayable gameplay and normal races and battle mode, online play that no one talks about, and a bunch of extra charm and love that's reminiscent of past spin-off games that I as a fan am very passionate about. Nintendo finally made a Mario spin-off game that lived up to its potential in the 20s based on a game that was released in 2017 due to DLC, and that game being a port of a game on the Wii U in 2014, but it still happened regardless and I love it. So I got some good news based on my quote-unquote condition. They made a mistake and apparently Blur wasn't the game they thought I said, so they let me go. Apparently the game that they thought I said was Sonic Team Racing, and that's weird because it sounds nothing like Blur, but I guess they mixed me up for someone who actually said Sonic Team Racing unironically. I never said the game was good, but it's not also as racing transformed.
Many months later.
Yeah, that checks out.